Thank you for joining us. You're listening to the St. John's Farmers Market Radio Almanac. This is a show about business and market culture in and around St. John's, Newfoundland. This program is produced and recorded at CHMR FM 93.5 FM in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador, and is aired on other great stations in the province and elsewhere in the country. It can also be heard online at www.chmr.ca. I'm your host, Matthew LeDrew, owner and operator at Engine Books, the province's fastest growing independent publisher of books.
Okay, welcome to the first ever, so technically the greatest ever episode of the St. John's Farmers Market Radio Almanac. This is a new show on CHMR and on YouTube. Thank you very much for joining us. That is going to be focused on the St. John's Farmers Market and its vendors and its side markets and business in general and all of that kind of fun stuff. A show about local business in St. John's, Newfoundland, and Newfoundland in general. And to start us off, I could not think of having a better guest slash co-host than the executive director of the St. John's Farmers Market, the wonderful, amazing, and brilliant Pam Anstey.
Well, golly, after an introduction like that, what do I even begin to say?
I know. Well, Pam, thank you so much for letting me do this project. Can I get some thoughts for you on, for first of all, like can you tell me about the farmers market for anyone who doesn't know what it is, like the basics, like the people listening, where is it, when is it, mission statement, fun stuff like that.
Absolutely. So I'll talk a little bit first about the fact that the farmers market's been around since 2007. So we've gone through some changes in a relatively short time. So we started out as a one-off, let's all kind of get together and hang out and sell our veggies kind of a deal. And that proved so awesome that it was like, well, we got to keep doing this. Which many people will know morphed into a relatively long, lengthy stay at the St. John's Lions Club, where we were for many years. But in 2018, we moved here to the old Metro Bus Depot, and we, magnified our space in lots of ways. So right now we are operating every Saturday year round. We are operating a lot of Sundays. We're doing specialty kinds of thematic markets, really neat stuff and interesting stuff. Throughout a big part of the year, we have a couple of our vendors that are doing a Wednesday evening market. So Karen's Woodworking, which is one of our vendors, does the Hump Day market for a fairly healthy chunk of the year. And we're doing all sorts of events and activities and projects and programs and all sorts of really neat and cool stuff. So we have about, in peak season, about 80 vendors here at any given time.
Nice.
We can fit on a miserable snowy weekend, we can fit about 50 odd to 60 inside. So we're still able to provide really diverse products and a really cool experience no matter what time of the year. We have a huge diversity of different products available, different vendors available. We pride ourselves on being exceptionally multicultural. So we have food and products from all over the world. We also have a very core to our philosophy kind of motto. Everything at the St. John's Farmers Market, the people here have to either make it, bake it, or grow it. Yep. So everything here is local. Everything here is made by the person that's selling it. And we wouldn't have it any other way. We are a treasure trove of stories and gloriousness.
That's really amazing. And yeah, you see that when people come around, like as someone who's been a vendor at the farmers market for over a year now, a year and a half-ish, like I still consider myself new, but people look at like I'm part of the furniture, so maybe I'm not. But yeah, no, it's wonderful to see like people who haven't been there in a while going, oh, this is new. That is, they do that locally, and it's this thing of like, oh, they make books locally, they do X locally. Like it's people learn basically how diverse Newfoundland really is, like both in people and in product when they're at the farmers market.
It's a really good point, Matt, because one of the things that I've tried to do since I've been here is to make sure that we realize the current face of this province. For a long time, we were, very similar in our background, very similar in our origins. And bit by bit, we became a lot more multicultural. And in the last, 10, 20 years even, St. John's especially has become gloriously multicultural. And we want people to be able to experience the great diversity that we have here and be able to, take a little trip around the world and have a taste of something that's not from, Nan's kitchen, which is nothing wrong with grandma's kitchen that you grew up in, but we want to have all of the options. So
if my Nan was still with us, I'd come in with her every weekend and she'd be a food vendor there, and that would be the name of it, kitchen. Yeah, no, that's wonderful. It's also interesting to go to the farmers market because it's a spot where you can really make a difference with your dollar as a consumer. Like, instead of like going to these giant chains and stuff like that have popped up around, either with regard to anything, either food, groceries, clothing, books, whatever. Like, it's happened a few times now that, like, by you like voting with your dollar kind of thing, you can like grow a business. Like, there are some businesses out there that have outgrown the farmers market and grown to get their own brick and mortar stores, grown to be a part of larger things. John Richler with the Jewish Deli has gone on to do like guest spots at other restaurants. Kyle Callahan had his own business downtown for a while. Like all these things where it's like you're voting with your dollars and growing businesses from, as much as we'd always love to have them at the farmers market, you can grow them to something that moves beyond that.
And the origins of the farmers market certainly speak to that in a huge way. Like, we are intended to be a business incubator. So we want little tiny small businesses to be able to come here, find their place in the broader marketplace, find their customer base, figure out what works, figure out what sells and what doesn't, figure out all of those things without having to invest an enormous amount of money in, overhead and rent and property taxes and all of those things. And people can really figure out what works. And you mentioned a couple of examples, but golly, there's a ton more. And we have people who have come here with relatively small businesses, and have been able to really leverage their time here to not just go on to open up, say, a bricks and mortar store, but to do enormous amounts of wholesale, or to be able to, get their product into regular retail outlets and things like that, and really make a name for themselves. But the other side of it is we're also able to provide an ongoing space for those small businesses that the person doesn't have the interest or the capacity to become enormous, but can still have a really cool niche in the marketplace, and be able to, share their products, share their craft, share their art with the rest of the province. So it's a really nice environment and very much a community environment that way.
No matter how big Engine gets, I don't see us having a brick and mortar bookstore. That you know what I mean? That's like, nah, we might need a storage space if we get big enough, but I don't see us ever having a store front. Like, that's like SJFM bound and bred kind of thing.
Exactly. And it speaks to the diversity of the different types of people that come here as vendors and what their purposes and intentions and what their goals are.
Yeah.
There's space for all of them.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's the farmers market, and that's lovely. This is a new show on CHMR.
This is so cool.
A 30-minute weekly show, and we're going to interview, for people who are interested in hearing this for the first time, we're going to be interviewing vendors, we're going to be interviewing consumers, people who are regulars at the farmers market and are part of the board as a consumer. We're going to talk about our AGM as though it's a big, like, multi-thing event in April. We're going to like do a lead up to the AGM and see how many people we can get coming to it. and that kind of thing. We're going to do a whole bunch of fun stuff. And also interview people who work at the farmers market. Much to John's chagrin, he is going to have to talk on camera.
He's going to have to deal.
Yeah, he's going to have to deal. Teresa, I think, went into fits because I was like, well, I got to do. Yeah, because and she was like, no, I don't do that. I was like, well, you're a vendor too, so you're going to either way. And he's like, nah. But that's fun. So it's 30 minutes where you get to focus in on a local business person every week. What do you see for this show? This is both me asking you personally and telling our audience, like, what do you want this show to be as part of your vision?
I want people to learn the stories from the market. I want people to know how really cool some of the stories from some of the vendors and consumers and board members and staff really are and how they came to be here. We have this wonderful little community of such, broad-based people from all over the place. We have such a diversity in many ways. So one of the things about the farmers market, and I'm going to digress just a little bit, but
Sure.
is that we have done everything in our power to make this place as inclusive as possible. And not just to give lip service to it, but to really dive down. And, even in the building of this place, we were working to make it as inclusive as we possibly could for as many people as we could. The place is fully accessible for any sorts of mobility disabilities or anything like that. We have all gender inclusive washrooms because that matters. And in every project or program or market that we do is to celebrate all of the different origin stories and background and products and art that come from so many people that call this place, a little bit of their home. So this program can share some of those things. I've known them. I know lots of them. I don't know all of them, surely. But to be able to share some of the really cool stories of the people that are in this market community, I think people will be fascinated.
I agree. That's an interesting point. Pam, what's your story? How did you get involved in the farmers market?
I'm one of those. Way back in the day, man, I used to call myself a market groupie. So I started as customer. Then I started helping one of the vendors. So I kind of essentially came at it from the vendor perspective. I ended up being elected to the board for a while. And then in 2018-ish, I ended up being selected as the executive director for the place. So that was a really broad-based perspective of all of the different points of view within this place.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so that's who you are. That's how you came to work at the farmers market once you were there. Where were you before this, Pam? What's your story? Were you like, did you kill a man in Reno just to watch him die, and then you fled to Newfoundland? What's the story?
Okay, so I grew up in a fishing boat.
Okay.
So I am from Twillingate, and I spent more time in my father's fishing boat than I ever did pretty much anywhere else. Like everybody, came to the big city, moved away. So I am a Pam of all trades, I guess some might say. Tons of community service work is what I do. I've been doing community development work forever. I am a social worker, which is an odd match to be the executive director of the St. John's Farmers Market, but I can tell you it works out really well sometimes.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, and I do some counseling outside of the market as well. So I have a few different hats that I wear. I'm also one of these people that kind of sits on boards and committees for fun. So
That-
I
That's
sit
like
on
me.
several,
Yeah.
yeah, right. Like I sit on several different board of directors,
Mm.
which I find really cool and
I,
really interesting.
do people look at you like you're insane too? Because people are like, what do
Yes,
you volunteer to do work for fun? You
yes.
sociopath. Yeah.
I know. And my other, I guess, secret or claim to fame is that I am a really big fountain pen nerd.
Ooh.
So ask me anything about fountain pens and I could probably tell you. And I have an absurd collection of them, plus gallons and gallons of fountain pen ink that I couldn't possibly ever use all of.
Do you know that one of the people who comes to the farmers market every week, working for another vendor, has a business where they sell farmers fountain pens and ink?
What?
Yeah,
What?
AJ Ryan at that works for Nourish now and is one of my editors, has a business called Corkboard Pens where she goes to different markets and stuff like that, selling, importing from everywhere fountain pens and selling ink and all that wonderful stuff.
See, we're everywhere.
Yeah.
We're infiltrating.
Yep.
So yeah, that's me,
Yeah.
generalized community development, volunteery kind of nerd.
All right. That's a good kind of nerd to be. Okay. Well, as a book vendor, like I also am a person at the vendors, like that's my specialty, but it is very nakedly the St. John's Farmers Market. So Pam, please tell me a bit about the farmers side of things.
Well, the farmers are our legacy, right? So that is how we started, is when a group of consumers who were very much, wanting more local produce, more access to local produce, came together with a group of farmers that had excess produce that they weren't able to sell either through stores or roadside stands or whatnot. And they all kind of banded together and said, hey, let's make this work. Um, and over the years, we have had so many wonderful farming families with us because inevitably farmers are farming families. And they have been such a foundational part of this market. They are why we are here originally. That's where we started. Um, right now, we still have quite a number of farmers that are with us seasonally. We're so pleased. Some of them have been with us since almost the very beginning. Um, and the really neat thing that's happening is not only can you access, the regular Newfoundlandy type vegetables, your potato, turnip, carrot, cabbage.
Mm.
We're seeing such a diversity now. We're seeing farmers come with so much varied produce, really interesting produce, different produce, mysterious produce that I have possibly never seen before. We have everything from foragers to, butchers to people who are doing all sorts of different really cool stuff while still maintaining those traditional roots and traditional root vegetables. So our farmers will always be celebrated. We wish we could have them year round, but it is Newfoundland, and unfortunately, we have a pretty tight growing season. But the farmers have really found really creative ways to stretch out that season as much as they possibly can,
Mm.
and are bringing really interesting, cool new stuff along with the traditional. So it's been awesome.
All right, so I have a bunch of questions here, and what I'm
Mhm.
going to do is I'm going to just go through them one at a time. What I'd love to do with this is I would love to, every time I interview a vendor, go through all the questions, but also get them to add a question at the end, something they would like. Like there actually is a question on here from the Jam Lady. I'm doing an episode of my other show, the writing show, from the Jam Lady, and we're going to do a special episode. So I've been asking authors what jam, if they were a jam, what jam would they be? And I'm going to
Oh,
have
that's
the jam,
awesome.
and I'm going to have the jam lady on to psychoanalyze their answers because she's a trained psychologist as well.
She is.
Yeah, so that should be fun. All right, so the first one is Pam. If you were trapped on a desert island, what 3 books or movies would you want with you?
Oh, Matthew.
Yep.
Okay, let me think, because I'm really bad with like titles and stuff. So I'm gonna try to answer this as best I can.
Okay.
The best 3 movies that I would like to have with me, Rocky Horror Picture Show,
Okay. Interesting.
because it would make me just giggle with delight every single time.
I've never seen it.
What?
I know everyone.
Oh
Oh,
my goodness. We have to have a Rocky Horror Picture Show watching party then.
okay. When the pandemic's over, absolutely.
Halloween.
All right.
I'm gonna use 2 other trilogies, maybe.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with the Lord of the Rings trilogy,
Okay.
even though that's 3 movies, not 1.
Mm.
And 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 um um uh uh I don't know. Something really old, I would suspect. I like super old movies.
Oh, really?
So yeah, anything with Peter Lorre in it,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
good to go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll put that
Oh,
down.
no,
Oh,
I have one. I have one because I want people to know this one.
okay.
There's this really older movie, not old, but it's like from the 80s. And it's not in English.
Okay.
It's called Spoorloos, Spoorloos. It is either, I want to say, Norwegian or Swedish or something like that. It is available fully on YouTube, so you can watch it. It is also the most atmospheric, creepy movie. No jump starts, no gore, no nothing like that. But it is such a awesome movie to mess with your mind.
Okay.
There were American remakes done of it called The Vanishing, which
Oh,
people
okay.
may or may not have seen, but this is the original, and it is magnitudes better than the remake. So yeah,
Okay.
go watch it because you can find it for free too.
All right. I sure will. Pam, if you were a jam, what kind of jam would you be? And why?
I would be Jumbleberry.
What's Jumbleberry? I've never even heard of that. That's not real.
It is a real thing. It is totally a real thing. It is where you take all the little leftover bits of berries that you have that weren't enough to make a full batch, and you kind of put them all in together, and you make like a mixed berry, Jumbleberry kind of jam. So I would
feel
pick
like
that because
I feel
what?
like that's what the gummy bears from the Disney show used to bounce here and there and everywhere.
Because I am I have a little bit of everything with regards to, my multiple hats that I wear and the multiple things that I like and everything like that. So yeah, that's the one I'd pick.
Okay.
It's also very tasty. Go buy some.
Awesome. Awesome. Sounds wonderful. Sounds wonderful. I will check that out. That's an interesting idea. Oh, Pam, does working at the St. John's Farmers Market energize you or does it exhaust you? And everyone's going to say default energize, but I want to be specific. At the end of the day, are you like, yeah, pumped up and it gave you energy, or are you drained? Be honest at the end of a Saturday or Sunday.
Both. I
Okay.
mean, seriously, both. They're hard physical days. I mean, they're hard emotional days some days. If everything's going right on the floor, it means that there's a lot of work going into coordinating and the logistics and all of the things that are happening behind the scenes. There's so much work that goes on behind the scenes that nobody ever sees, and that's exactly how it should be. What I want people to do is to be able to come to the market, walk in, and it's like this wonderful, glorious place. Even if things are going horribly wrong, as long as out front and the experience of people coming in is a good one. So, like any business, and ultimately we are a business. Some days are really good. Some days there's a lot of complications, shall we say, especially in the days of COVID. We had a lot of complicated things and anti-vaxxers and protesters and so on and so forth. So some days are harder than others, but back when I came here, one of the things I would tell people is this is my happy place. Like this is where you can stand in the middle of the market or sit in a cafe and just be, and really feel the energy and all of the positive vibes that are happening all around you. So yeah, my answer is, both.
Okay, I like that answer. Pam, as a business person or person that works at the farmers market, if magic was real and there was a magic spell, there was a cauldron in front of you, like a witch's cauldron, and you took the part of you that works at the farmers market, put it into the cauldron, and an animal popped out of it, made up of your work life, what animal would that be?
Oh, Matthew,
Yeah.
what kind of a question is that? So first off, correction, magic is real.
Oh, I'm very
So, let's get that sorted right off the get-go.
okay.
If I took my market experience and stuffed it in a cauldron and an animal popped out, you know what? It would probably be some sort of kitty cat.
Okay.
And here's why.
All right.
Because I can be really laid back when I need to be.
Can you?
I totally can.
Okay.
Yep. I swear to God, it does happen.
All right.
Really vigilant, and I can be really friendly. And if I need to be, I can be a hissy cat. So that's I have to wear a lot of hats here. So sometimes you have to be kind of multifaceted in order to be able to navigate it all. But
yeah, for sure.
Most of the times I'm like the mellow kitty cat that's just kind of going around rubbing against things.
All right. What does success look like for you? So with other business people, I'll ask what success in their business look like for them right now. Like what goal are they striving towards? With you, I'll ask what does success with the farmers market right now look like to you?
I think success looks like everybody being able to come here and find something that speaks to them, and vendors being able to come here and find a conduit to where they want to grow their business, or if they want to grow their business. For some people, that might just mean selling more. For others, it might be, this is the stepping stone on the way to opening up their own restaurant or whatnot. But yeah, success for me would be the dual side of it, because we kind of work in dualities here a lot. Vendor, consumer, community, volunteer, staff, board, there's a lot of different components. So I think it's all about people being able to think of this place as a safe and happy space, as a community space, and for us to continue to be able to offer to the broader community a real glimpse to the richness and diversity that this city has become. So yeah, helping people achieve what they want to achieve, I guess, is what success looks like for me.
Well, Pam, thank you so much for coming on the St. John's Farmers Market Radio Almanac, or the SJFM Radio Almanac. We might have to figure it a way for me to say that more easily when things come down. Buy local, everyone out there listening. We will hopefully see you this Saturday at 9 a.m. at the Farmers Market, and we will all be there. Make sure and say hi to Pam. Make sure and say hi to me and all the other vendors that are there. But thank you for coming on.
So yeah, this has been super fun, and I can't wait for people to learn all about the folks that call this place home. So it's great.
For all of you listening, we'll be here the same time next week to talk more about business culture in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. Be sure to drop by and visit our guests and all the other vendors at the St. John's Farmers Market this week.